Life moves pretty fast.
From our podcast studio in Hugo, Minnesota.
You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
It's the GRG88 podcast.
Welcome back to the GRG88 podcast, where 88 grads reconnect and rediscover the moments that shaped us. As you may already know, fellow 88 grad and friend Wade Hermes' dad recently passed away. Today, in our patron profile segment, we take a few moments to remember Jim Hermes. Having grown up with Wade in Scandia, Minnesota, some of my earliest memories of Jim were at the home he built for his family along the St. Croix River. Alongside Wade, his siblings, and the neighborhood friends, we had great times riding bikes, playing football, and exploring the river valley around the Hermes' home. An old train bridge and nearby cave, which had been used by Native Americans and early immigrants, gave us a window into the distant past while we created our own adventures along the St. Croix River. So when Wade contacted me in August of 2021 to inform me his childhood home had come on the market for sale, we were both eager to arrange a walkthrough and relive some of those past memories from our youth. Here's an excerpt from that day where Wade shares with his kids what life was like growing up along the St. Croix River.
Ron and Ava, this is my old house. And right here by the sign where it says 23499, that's where we would walk down and get on the bus. And imagine all the times in the winter when it would be cold and the wind would be howling and all these trees weren't as big as they were, and we had to run all the way down this driveway to get to the bus.
And did you have a bus house?
No bus house.
I feel like, was that more open air over here in a field?
This was all more open, and now Here we are 40 years later, it's all completely grown in.
Nearly 40 years had passed since we had traveled down that old driveway together, and memories of football games we had played in Wade's yard came rushing back. Growing up, Wade shared stories of how his dad, Jim, played for the Forest Lake High School Ranger football team, and his encouragement inspired Wade to follow in his dad's footsteps.
My dad said, Wade, you should write down some of your goals. I said, well, Dad, what would I do? And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be a professional running back. And he said, well, you got to start running. So I started to run because of Dad. All winter long as 7th grade, I ran through all that.
Growing up attending Catholic school with Wade, Jim was an encouraging influence on me and my peers. In the late 1970s, Jim sponsored our school's annual fundraising marathon, where we proudly wore Hermes real estate branded Superman apparel while riding our bikes through Forest Lake during the fundraising event. The large world map in this picture was on the wall of Jim's home office, and it always captivated my imagination. It was in this room, during our junior high school years, where Jim hosted my Catholic CCD education classes to help prepare us for the sacrament of confirmation, which we'd eventually attain in 1986. After high school, Wade and I attended the University of Minnesota Duluth, where we forged new friendships and experiences. Upon hearing about Jim's passing, our UMD college roommates and fellow 88 grads from Coon Rapids High School called the show to share their thoughts about Jim.
This is Matt. I just saw that you're doing a little shout out for Wade and for his dad, and so I thought I'd call in and just share a couple of thoughts. I didn't know Jim Hermes real well, but he came up and visited Wade and us guys up at UMD a few times.
Wade, this is Marty. When I think about your dad, Jim, I think about how each of us has an opportunity in life to make an impact on other people.
It was real obvious his love for Wade and just to be a part of what was going on up at UMD. And the postcards that Wade would get from his dad just stating, "You are good." And while that was a bit of humor for us and kind of teased him a bit about that, I think we all recognized the fact that here his dad was thinking about him and just wanted to reach out with the postcard. And we thought that was pretty cool.
And your dad, with his notes of positivity and his words of encouragement to lift you up, also impacted not only you, but others around you.
Around the 2010 timeframe, a few of us decided to start meeting over early morning breakfast visits. These sessions were a great source of moral support as we navigated fatherhood in the new millennium. Sometimes we'd invite a guest speaker, and in August 2010, Jim Hermes agreed to join our breakfast so we could learn from his 40-plus years of experience as a husband and father of 4. At that time, Jim shared a compelling faith testimony with our group. So, when I found out from Wade that his parents would be joining us for the home walkthrough, Jim let me record his faith story for posterity.
Weird
this
to
is
see
it.
this now. Wow.
This is our house.
It was the same color, wasn't it?
Same color, same
Okay.
exterior.
It was in 1976. So I remember getting down on my knees at my bed. I said, Lord, please put good people in my life, put good books in my life, and make my Bible come alive.
I think back of my years in 76, and I think of us as parents now, and when our kids were that age, it's a profound time to make decisions.
So within that week, I went to Chicago with a guy by the name of Steve Brown. He was the speaker. I happened to meet him on the airplane. We started talking, and he gave me a book that I brought home, and I read it. It wasn't too long after that I started reading my Bible. I said, this stuff makes sense. And all of a sudden, I was in groups of guys with 4, 5, 6 guys that had all had the same experience. Within 2 or 3 weeks, that prayer was answered just over the top. So it's like we died to go to heaven, Jeff.
Jim made a huge decision for his life, and to give that over to Christ, and the impact that he had that had on his kids has been reflected in that. Now Wade's carrying that torch, and so it reminds us as parents the importance of that.
And I think it's amazing how courageous and willing he was to share his faith and share his positivity and his encouragement to help others around him every day. So that's what I think about when I think about Jim. God bless.
Jim, you were good, you are good, and I'm sure you're celebrating in heaven. So we're grateful for that legacy that you've passed on.
Well, thanks for listening to this patron profile episode of the GRG88. If you have a patron you'd like to profile or a story for a future episode, send us a text message or give us a call on the podcast hotline. Bruce, tell them how to reach the show.
To contact the show, call or text the podcast line at 731-GRG-1988.
Our courteous and efficient staff is on call 24 hours a day to serve all your supernatural elimination needs.
That's 731-474-1988.
We're ready to believe you.
Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep it real.